Okay, I want you to picture something. First, think of a weapon from World War II, a really crude flying bomb, just sputtering through the sky and honestly, lucky to land within miles of its target. Now, jump to today. Picture a weapon streaking through the atmosphere at over a mile per second, so fast and agile it could change course on a dime. That is the incredible, mind-boggling leap we've made. So let's dive into this new global arms race.
All right, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we're going to go right back to the beginning, to the dawn of guided weapons. Then we'll get into the science that gave them that pinpoint accuracy. After that, we'll look at what it actually takes to shatter the sound barrier and go hypersonic. We'll size up the new global race to master this tech, and finally, we'll ask the big question: what does all of this really mean for the future?
So let's start at the beginning. Our story really isn't about speed or power, not at first. It's about a fundamental problem that military planners have wrestled with for centuries. How in the world do you hit what you're aiming at when it's really, really far away?
Well, the first real crack at an answer came in the 1940s with things like Germany's V1, which people called the buzz bomb. You could basically call it the world's first cruise missile. Now, it wasn't smart, and it definitely wasn't accurate, but what it did was prove the concept. It was revolutionary. For the very first time, you could launch something that would fly over 100 miles and hit a target city, all without risking a pilot. It completely changed the game.
But, and this is a huge but, that proof of concept had a massive flaw. Its successor, the V2 ballistic missile, had a dispersion of 10 miles. Just think about that for a second. You could aim for the center of London and end up hitting a field 10 miles outside the city. This wild inaccuracy meant they were more weapons of terror than precision tools, and fixing that became the next great engineering challenge.
And you know, that challenge was really built on decades of work. It all started with pioneers like Dr. Robert Goddard and his early rockets in the 20s. That work was then weaponized by Germany in the 30s, which led straight to the V1 in 1942, and then its much faster rocket-powered big brother, the V2, which first hit England in 44. Just like that, the age of missiles had arrived.
Okay, so that brings us to the real problem. You've built a rocket. It can go hundreds of miles. Great. But how do you make it smart? How does it know where to go? How does it navigate a whole journey by itself to hit one specific building in a massive city? So, the first piece of the puzzle is something called an inertial navigation system, or INS. And this thing is just brilliant. Think of it like trying to find your way through a dark room with your eyes closed. The INS uses gyroscopes to feel any rotation and accelerometers to feel any movement. By adding up every single tiny turn and push from the moment it launches, it can figure out exactly where it is, all without ever needing to look outside.
And the second piece of the puzzle is something we all carry in our pockets: GPS. Right, unlike the INS, which looks inward, GPS is constantly looking outward for signals from space. It's talking to a whole network of satellites orbiting the Earth to get a super accurate, real-time fix on its location. It's kind of like having a perfect map with a little glowing dot that says, "You are here."
Now here's the crucial part. Neither one is perfect on its own. The INS is amazing because it's self-contained and can't be jammed, but tiny little errors add up over time and it starts to drift off course. GPS, on the other hand, is incredibly accurate, but those satellite signals can be blocked or jammed. So what's the solution? You put them together. The super accurate GPS is constantly correcting the small drifts of the sturdy INS. It's a perfect partnership that creates a guidance system that's both tough and deadly accurate. It's the tech that makes modern cruise missiles like the Tomahawk possible, and it's why the map on your phone works so well.
So once the accuracy problem was more or less solved, the next obsession became speed. I mean, not just fast, but mind-bendingly, physics-defyingly fast. And this meant pushing technology past the sound barrier and into a whole new world of flight.
To even talk about these speeds, we use something called the Mach number. That's pretty simple. Subsonic is anything slower than the speed of sound. That's Mach 1. Supersonic is anything from Mach 1 up to Mach 5. And then you've got the big one, hypersonic. That's anything moving faster than 5 times the speed of sound.
And this chart here really puts that into perspective. A commercial jetliner, it's cruising at about Mach 0.8, so not even the speed of sound. A typical supersonic missile, which is already incredibly fast, might hit Mach 3. But a hypersonic weapon, it starts at Mach 5 and just goes up from there. It is truly in a league of its own.
Now, getting to those speeds, that required a total revolution in engine design.
Your standard turbojet, the kind with all the spinning fans, it just can't handle it. So engineers came up with ramjets, which have no moving parts and literally use their own insane forward speed to ram air into the engine. But to go truly hypersonic, you need a scramjet. That stands for supersonic combustion ramjet. This is an engine where the air is still moving at supersonic speeds inside the engine as the fuel burns. It's like trying to keep a match lit in a hurricane, and it's the absolute key to unlocking speeds of Mach 6 and beyond.
And that technological breakthrough brings us right to today, and to what has become an intense, high-stakes global competition to build and field these hypersonic weapons. This isn't science fiction anymore. This is a very real, new arms race.
And you better believe the stakes are high. I mean, just look at this quote from the U.S. National Defense Strategy. The major world powers don't just see hypersonics as another weapon in the arsenal. No, they see it as a fundamental, game-changing technology that will decide who has the military edge for decades to come.
And this gets to the heart of why everyone wants them. It's not just about the speed. A ballistic missile is also incredibly fast, right? The real game changer, the secret sauce, is combining that extreme speed with maneuverability. A hypersonic weapon doesn't just fly in a predictable arc that you can track. It can dodge, it can weave. That makes it nearly impossible for our current missile defenses to see it coming, let alone stop it.
And as you can see, this race is already in full swing. The U.S. is working on systems like the air-launched RAW, that's ARRW, and the ground-based long-range hypersonic weapon. China says it has already fielded its DF-17 missile, and Russia claims it has several systems ready to go, like the Avangard glide vehicle and the ship-launched Zircon missile.
But listen, this is not just a three-way race between the US, Russia, and China. Not at all. Lots of other countries are pouring money into this. Australia is working with the US. India has a dozen hypersonic wind tunnels for testing. France, Japan, the Koreas, they all have active programs. The genie is out of the bottle, and this tech is spreading fast.
So, all of this leads to the one huge question that's hanging over everything. With this technology spreading all over the world, what does it actually mean? Are we looking at a truly revolutionary threat to global stability? Or is this just the next evolution in a long history of military tech?
So let's tackle that head-on. Are these things really a strategic game changer? Well, right now, the debate among experts really boils down to two very different schools of thought.
The first viewpoint, which you can see here from Pavel Podvig, is basically that this is more evolutionary than revolutionary. The argument goes like this. Major nuclear powers can already obliterate each other in minutes with existing ballistic missiles. So from that perspective, adding another really fast weapon to the pile doesn't fundamentally change that terrifying reality.
But then you have the other side of the coin. This viewpoint argues that their unique ability to evade defenses does change everything. The fear is that these weapons could make multi-billion-dollar missile defense shields totally useless. And if one country thinks it can launch a devastating first strike that cannot be stopped, well, that could completely unravel the delicate doctrine of deterrence that's kept the peace for over half a century. And that leaves us with this timeless military dilemma, now supercharged to Mach 5 and beyond. As nations race to forge the fastest, most unstoppable sword imaginable, an equally desperate race has begun to build a shield smart enough to stop it. Which one will win? Well, the answer to that question is probably going to define global security for the rest of our lives.